It's another Manly Monday, and this Manly Monday, I was originally going to go at this topic one way. I decided to go at this topic another way because naming the video the other way would have been problematic, because I've been toying with this idea of whether incels are just the whole thing of pick me, whether that's a better definition from it. But then I got mired in the slang terminologies involving pick me girls not be the same as pick me boys, because pick me girls are specifically about I'm not like other girls to get attention from men, whereas pick me boys are just wanting attention overall from anybody. So the gender definitions are not one-to-one, which makes it a goddamn mess. And I want to look more at the very different relationships with desirability, both intra-sex, so how men feel about it versus how women feel about it, and then, intersex, the messages that are being sent to women allegedly from men, and the messages men are being sent allegedly from women. And the reason I say allegedly there is that no single person can speak for an entire fucking gender. It's 50%-ish of the whole population. There's all obviously intra-sex difference. And the problem I have with the whole pick me girl thing is I've had these goddamn interests since I was 3 years old. And E.T. was my favorite fucking movie as a kid. E.T.'s not even fucking cool. Gen Z doesn't like E.T. It's too slow a fucking movie. Fucking Slimer. Love Slimer. Made my own Slimer out of a green pillowcase when I was a kid. People are always like, what guy got you, who got you into all this stuff? And they expect to hear a boyfriend or a male relative. And when I say my mother held me up to a Pac-Man machine when I was 3 years old, I called it Bucka Bucka. They're like, that's not the answer they wanted. They wanted what guy got me into, a boyfriend in like the 10th grade introduced me to Marvel collectible trading cards. That's the only thing. I played D&D with 2 guys in like the 6th grade. Then they go, oh, okay. But the idea that, no, I came to this on my own. I am not Penny from the Big Bang Theory. Fuck right off with that. Like, I get more social acceptance on the left when I go, I'm non-binary. Oh, okay, that's why your interests are different. Instead of saying, I'm just a different kind of woman. Well, that's not like other girls. Like, the forces that were allegedly showing how tropes are used against women are precisely the ones who are using tropes like the not like other girls girl and the pick me girl against fucking women. And that's why we're at the topic of, is it woman as reward or a woman's approval as reward? And so I'll do the help support this channel now. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. Coffee.com/LeannaK. There's a lot of people who need support who can't afford it right now. So, anything you can give, even if it's not, the suggested donation on Coffee, even if you can't do the monthly on Patreon is super important because that's the only way I can not work and still have income. It's my sick day fund. So that helps, but I understand people have subscription fatigue. So yeah, I've been mulling this over for a while because a lot of guys are really rightly like, I don't know what to do. Everything's wrong. Nothing is right. The idea that you're attracted to a woman, that you sincerely think they're a wonderful person, has been so demonized as aggressive or entitlement. And it's not. I hear from a lot of guys like, there's no way to approach women and know it's okay, except on dating sites, and that's a shit pile of hot garbage, right? My words, not theirs. To the point that a guy got freaking irate with me going, oh no, it's not the women who like doll themselves up and everything like that who are the worst for men. It's the women who are like, I'm not made up. I didn't want you to approach me. And that, I'm sure that experience did happen to him or one of his friends, but that is assuming the why of that response. Because I encourage guys to think about a woman's reaction when you're approached and you're not expecting it. Guys are like, I wish women would approach me more. It would be flattering to know a woman finds me interesting and attractive. But for a woman, because there's this fear narrative of if you reject a guy, he's going to blow up on you and get abusive and violent, which is not this is an example of something is not good, but it's treated as normal when it's not actually the normal response. Most guys just kind of go away and feel terrible. And I say this is somebody who's gotten a lot of, hey, fuck you, bitch, with things. So yeah, I have had that, angry, misogynistic response, but I just get a lot of responses in general, which is why I'm a one-person walking science experiment with these things. Yay, science. But think of it more this way. When a woman has a bad reaction to you approaching her, it's because she's put on the spot and panics. And that is actually what science has found, because the person being approached doesn't control the interaction. The person doing the approach controls the why, the how, the when, the what, right? It's this response. And look, stuff gets broken when you do that. So, I do think there is an element of performance where a woman, because we're not allowed anymore to want that kind of attention from men, girls go online and treat this creepy guy just approached me and oh my God, like I so didn't want it. That's a humble brag. That's look, I'm desirable. I did something good in a socially appropriate feminist context, and fuck that. I think it's much more healthy to go, that guy was really sweet and my head's not there right now, but I appreciate that he had the guts, and the awkwardness kind of made it more flattering. But we're not allowed to say we're flattered by male attention, right? This is how toxic the whole thing has become. It's almost like we need a new category of toxic femininity, toxic feminism. Like, let's stop calling it pop feminism and let's start calling it toxic feminism, because that's really what it is. And this is where we get into the really complicated relationship of men and women's approval. Whether the ending of a Mario game with Princess Peach kissing Mario on the cheek and Mario looking at the camera and blushing is Princess Peach as the reward, or Princess Peach's approval of Mario being the reward. And I argue, and I have not done it this coherently in the past, but hey, live and learn. The approval, since Princess Peach is the princess and Mario is blue collar, she is of a higher social status than him. She is out of his league. And it was always intended to be sort of a chivalric, Snow White kissing Bashful the dwarf on the head and Bashful going, "Garsh," right? It's this innocent, very sweet, girl pretty and smells good. This was a good day. And it goes no further than that, because that is the sort of retro, nostalgic, chivalric tradition that the Super Mario games were invoking. It's the childlike female authority figure kissing little boy on the head, giving an approval, good boy, not a sexual, they're gonna bang now. I don't know why people go sexual with Super Mario, but that's another topic, right, for another time. But Tropes vs. Women made it, oh no, Princess Peach's body is the reward. And there's fuck all evidence of that. And I do think that the predatory male becoming normalized is And again, nobody's saying it's good, but it's considered normal male behavior to be a predatory, misogynist pig. Which, again, I don't actually believe that's so. Maybe in Gen X, there's, data came out where everybody's like, oh my God, there's a huge gender gap among Gen Z. But, a majority of Gen Z men still think that DEI programs are beneficial. So Gen Z men are not the problem. Gen X men, on the other hand, men my age and somewhat older, woo, the data's not good there. But still, it's only about 2 out of 3 men. So there's a full third of men my age who are still good dudes in that way. So I choose to focus on them and just recognize that's going to get me the fuck you, bitch, from the other 2 out of 3. Which, okay, fuck you right back. It ain't literal, right? And I'm like the anti-pick-me girl here, but fuck. See, these things are all boxes. Because I really do think that the intent there was that Peach's approval was the reward and not Peach herself. And talking to a lot of men, that seems to be borne out. And yet, it's considered like guys get made fun of if they're a simp or a cuck, right? Wanting men to try, wanting men to put in effort is what you hear from women. Make me feel like you actually want me, not a girlfriend TM. But there's so much communication from society that this is not masculine. And that's a fucking problem. And what guy, especially when you're, more insecure, when you don't have a lot of experience, when I started getting called a pick-me back in, 2014, 2015, I didn't know how to, I was just like, why are people calling me this thing? Like, why? I look up the definition and it's like, no, that's not me. Men don't like this stuff. Men want to be the ones to teach you everything when you're better at it than them. You get the fuck you, bitch. You get the nerd checking. You get the constant testing. And it's like, fuck it, I'm gone. It doesn't work the way that these toxic feminists claim it does. The pick me is a myth. Usually what happens is you get degendered. Guys don't see you as a woman anymore. And because they actually want that more feminine woman. And hey, that's cool. Like what you like. I'm not complaining about that. It just don't work the way the toxic feminists say it does. And you end up as an honorary guy and get things like I did when I was a teenager. Leanna, if you were a girl, would you think I was good or something like that? It's like, I mean, okay, wasn't quite this full grown at the moment, but I was up there. I mean, I was a C cup by 6th grade, and I was still one of the guys. Got made fun of for that. But guys make fun of each other at that age. It's kind of toxic there too. But that's the point, that if a guy really wants a girl to like him, which is a healthy, normal, pro-social urge, you get cuck, simp, all the negative, like, be a man, make her come to you, like, don't give her your power, bruh. And it beats the shit out of healthy emotional yearning in guys. And that's before we get to, what if you're gay? It's better than it used to be for gay youth, but there are still some really rigid stereotypes and a pressure to come out before you're ready, which is still quite traumatizing and damaging. And so this idea that the approval of women as a reward for good behavior, which when you describe it like that is healthy and not wrong at all, has gotten lumped in with thinking you're entitled to a woman's body because you did a few good things. They're not the same thing at all. Wanting a woman to recognize that you did a good thing. Everybody wants that stuff recognized by people in general. And there is a deficit of those compliments being given to men from women because women are afraid that it will send signals that maybe they're not feeling or they're not sure about, right? And the ironic thing is I am complimentary towards men all the time because I just assume, they're not fucking interested and they're in another country anyway, right? This idea, and I'm married, so it takes the pressure off. But in these days, it's like Polly has blown that all out of proportion, and it's just made everything super weird as well. All this shit is weird. This stuff is weird. And you do end up going, is something wrong with me? Badly wrong with me? Should I change this? No matter who you are. And I don't think that wanting somebody to say, good job, is a bad thing. And we used to tell these stories, and I talked with a guy last week about the idea that if you do good, you'll get the girl. Yeah, that's not a healthy narrative either. Because your entire sense of worth, your entire sense of achievement is now tied to the opinions of another person that you can't control. And, just in the extreme, she might be gay. So she may think you're a great guy, but not that way. And a lot of women are just not in a headspace to date because there's too much baggage. Now, they're taking shit from other women. They're taking shit from men. And they're just like, fuck it, I'm checking out of all of it. And that's more socially acceptable because women are not seen as these craven balls of sex urge the way men are. And I really wish that we could promote more of that, more of the masculinity you see in Japan of a bit of shyness, a bit of awkwardness. You're not, the focus isn't on the sex so much in mainstream depictions. Sure, there's a fuck ton of porn, right? But often it'll be more childlike. I mean, you look at the protagonists of something like, say, One Piece or Attack on Titan. They're not big muscular guys, right? They're Armin. I freaking love Armin. Well, Aaron's the main character of Attack on Titan. But you know what I mean? This exists. And you don't tend to see, there are some, chibi Batmans and stuff like that. But you see characters like Robin. And I guess Armin's sort of the Robin of Attack on Titan. But you know what I'm saying, right? There's space for different kinds of masculinity, because let's face it, in Japan they have some of the lowest birth rates in the world, and they're living on top of each other, so the whole love hotel phenomenon is a thing. People don't have the personal space, and I think that we have to decouple a man's sense of worth from whether he gets the girl. So it's not a requirement, it's not a need. But it's okay to want it, right? Not the same thing. The good thing about wants is they're extras. You're not entitled. And I think the whole incel identity and the the misogynist performance associated with the incel thing, I think people kind of get that wrong because, like I said, the whole incel thing of sex work doesn't count because I wasn't picked. I really think it's more that. I really think that these guys have been convinced by the world that they are disgusting. And hey, guys, I'm right there with you. I get, notes on how revolting and annoying and unattractive I am weekly. I'm with you, okay? They have been convinced that it's never going to happen. And so there's an understandable misogynistic response, much like a lot of the misandry you saw in second wave feminism, sort of like, who needs you? Fuck you. I don't need no man. Instead of going, yeah, I'm not the ideal. I'm not even good enough. Now what? That acceptance is not there because it pains them so badly to acknowledge you believe nobody wants you. And there's sort of this, with radical feminism, girls go from more traditional, like, feminine stuff, to, the spiky hair or the shaved head, or the connection with ugly is, yeah, there's some of that because it's a cope. Not with everybody. Some people just are like, it's less work. If somebody has severe alopecia, they may just want to shave their head as opposed to wear wigs. For instance, they're just embracing it. That is different than acting out. And if somebody is angry, that's more it. But I mean, I thought Jack from Mass Effect was pretty hot, personally, right? So, and then, okay, but she's wearing lipstick and makeup, and yeah, but it's sort of a punk scene thing. Intent is a messy thing. You gotta watch it. And I think that these guys in these incel communities who are so deep in rejection and a sense of unfairness and victimhood and hopelessness, that they do start acting like a 70s rad femme and just become performatively repellent. Who gives a shit if I'm a misogynist? No woman's ever going to want me anyway. I'm involuntarily celibate, but it's not really about the sex. Because it doesn't count if it's from a sex worker. It's about being chosen. And the fact that it is seen as unmasculine to say, I want a cool woman to like me, whatever you think cool is, it's couched in the words of hot. She's hot. And it's like, guys, that takes a lot of fucking work. Those women, those Instagram models, do not look that way when they wake up in the morning. If that's what you want all the time, it's not real. Similarly, women are not allowed to want, men to like them, because then you're a pick-me. And so they, read campy romanticy with morally gray, he abuses you because he loves you, and not really love. It's some magic mate bond. It's like love is totally removed from the equation because everybody's just so anxiety ridden that they can't experience it. Because really connecting to another person in any way, not just sexually, requires vulnerability. And if your anxiety spikes at even the idea of vulnerability, then you're not going to be able to be in that state where that connection can happen. You know, do I prefer to come up here and go, yeah, I recognize that the average man finds me annoying, ugly, and repellent. No, I don't love that, right? But it's fucking true. And I say that because I'm not talking down to you guys, right? I'm not. I get it. Oh, it's different from women. Sure, it is. We're supposed to be beautiful. Men can be charming. That doesn't mean it's worse. It's just different. You know? Well, you could do more work. That's right. That's right. I could starve myself. I could get 80 grand in plastic surgery. I could spend more time on my hair and makeup and spend less time reading and doing things that bring me joy, right? I could wear contact lenses instead of glasses. I could. Yeah, those are choices. Absolutely. That I agree with. And that's the flip side for men as well. If you are choosing to not say what you mean because your friends will make fun of you, you got to own that choice, right? If you are identifying as an incel instead of just lonely, that's a choice. If you're deciding to perform misogyny because you've given up, so who cares, whatever. I'm ugly, women call me ugly, so women should handle being called ugly. That's a choice, bro. And there are consequences for that choice, right? Like, you are creating a self-fulfilling prophecy, because any woman who sees or hears you talking like that, they're going to run. And these are choices. And, you know, sometimes it's guys, why do we do this? Like, why do we make fun of each other for this shit? Like, is this really fun? Or is this actually hurting everybody involved and just nobody wants to say anything because we'll get made fun of there too? You know, is this really laughing with, or is this laughing at? Right? And sometimes if a guy has if he has a pattern of going with women who are bad for him, sometimes the jokes are a way of expressing concern in a way that doesn't, you know, make him feel as put on the spot. Sometimes socializing ain't easy for anybody. I don't care what anybody says. This idea that women are complex and men are simple, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Like, the vast majority of my client base is men. And I find myself forming hypotheses on what's driving a lot of guys just based on the media they're interested in and something in an episode of a TV show that hit them the wrong way. And God, when they dropped the word incel in Doctor Who, a lot of guys had a really bad reaction to that. And, you know, the week's episode after that, the numbers were down. I really do think, even though I think there might be a creative reason for that, dropping that word, judging by who watches Doctor Who, who is still watching Doctor Who after the Capaldi years, and that's when the ratings started to plummet. Look it up. But it did drive some people away. And TV, media at all, is made from people who have some influence, some status in the world. And that's why I loved inclusions of characters like Nardole in Doctor Who. I love Nardole. I think there was so much more they could have done with that character. There was not enough space because that last Capaldi season was a mess. They were throwing shit at the wall because the ratings started really dropping during season 2, in the second year series of Capaldi. And then we're just in free fall during that season. But I mean, I liked seeing that because that was more like the audience that watches Doctor Who, who's inclusion. And I think it does matter. And men don't talk about it the same way because it comes across, well, I don't look like Thor and I still watch Thor. I am not represented in media. Why do you need it? And I can't help but think that this uptick in misogynistic performance, and the reason I keep saying misogynistic performance is because I don't believe that the people saying this stuff hate women. I think quite the opposite. I think these guys don't know where to put their desperate need for women to think they're good. They don't know where to put it. And they don't like the vulnerability. And so they control the rejection. Like I said, the same way, you know, the performatively masculinized, you know, second wave feminists did. Fuck you, men. It was misandry. They called it at the time misandry. They called it man-hating. They did. Look it up. It's there. And that's why I say it's performative misogyny. I don't believe in my heart that these men hate women. I think they hate their desire for women, and they hate that they've given up trying, you know, they've given up the idea that any woman will ever see them as worthy. Invoking of Thor deliberate. And then that's demonized and that's seen as bad, and all men are painted with that brush. And no matter how often women like me, who I get don't count, I'm not hot enough, I get it, but every time a woman like me says no, that is not what the average woman feels. You just hear about a bad experience. And yeah, I can't take that away. I get it. I'm not fuckable enough to soothe that. I get it. I think it's gotta come from other guys, because it's not gonna come from the women that these guys want to hear it from. Because let's face it, if a woman presents as shallow, she's either doing that for business reasons or social reasons, feels like a fraud and is desperately afraid of someone discovering that, or she's shallow. You're not going to get these meaningful conversations. You're not going to get the emotional depth. And it's really got to be in guy world where we go like, look, dude, you don't mean that. You don't have to do that. It's okay to feel rejected. It's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel despair. It's okay to feel hopeless. What can we do? Like, because we think you're a good dude. Add some detail on that, please. Like, what do you value about him? Because a lot of men don't hear that. And it's very hard to develop any sort of healthy core self-concept without hearing that positive feedback from people. Men are taught to get that all from women. Women as refuge, not other men. Because, what are you, pussy? What are you, girl? Like that affectionate, trash talk. Okay, do the trash talk, but also please validate and affirm your friends. It's not gay. It's being a good friend. You know, gay men don't have the market cornered on emotional depth. Oh, Lord, in some cases, quite the opposite. But it does really have to come from other guys. Because with women, that bad experience, and it doesn't even necessarily have happened to the guy himself. He saw it on the internet or he heard about it from a friend. And that is so terrifying that if a woman tries to, but, and then it just gets really bad because the implication is, again, you are not hot enough for your opinion to matter. You're not the kind of girl I want. I want this kind of girl, and she thinks I'm gross. And then it's just hurt feelings Olympics. Everyone feels shit, and it's fucked up. And I do think that people who feel low, people who feel hopeless, people who don't know where to begin, where to start, they lose sight of the fact that they can hurt other people. That if you are out there spewing performative misogyny, if you are complaining that the breasts on fictional characters are not big enough for your liking, when God, that trend in anime was a Barbie is gross, what's wrong with you Westerners origin, you know, if you're doing that, you're making it harder for other guys. And some guys may not care. But if you do care, it's better to not have guys like that in your friend group. And this is the thing about male friend groups. They tend to have that guy who is just this performative misogynist. And guys know he's full of shit, but women don't. And in women, like, femininity is so policed that you'd probably say, hey, stop that. And, you know, that's not nice. And so if a group of women sees a group of men and there's one guy carrying on like that, rightly or wrongly, usually wrongly, but women are going to assume that every guy in that group is okay with that. Because women's experience with men are usually guys picking them apart. No, really, this is real. It's usually a boss or a teacher or some asshole in school, because it's that whole trash talk, make fun. Hey, you want equality, right? I'm going to be as blunt to women as I am to men. Oh, you called it rude? See ya. No kidding. That happened to me last week when I said, oh, you're just being rude and making it other people's problem. Blunt? Nah, you're rude. Oh, rude. Couldn't take the blunt talk. And someone like me who doesn't care anymore. Bye. Right? But someone who does still hope to be beautiful to someone, but doesn't feel that right now, that is gonna cut deeply. I remember when it used to with me, you know. And, you know, I was explaining to somebody else with the cosplay, with the, you know, oh, you had pictures, this, that, and the next thing. You never feel beautiful. You feel creative. You feel accomplished, you know, because part of the thing about cosplay is pulling off some of those crazy gravity-defying costumes. Like, how do you make this work, right? A lot of tape and flesh mesh and glue, quite frankly. But there's so much makeup. There's wigs. There's so much shapewear. Like, you're adapting and improving your appearance so much that when you take that all off, it's like turning into a pumpkin again. Right. And yes, I realize I'm making the cosplayer the carriage and not Cinderella, but it's true, right? You take that all off, you're just nobody again. And that's important for men to understand, right? That cosplayer is not about beauty per se. It's about the challenge. It's about loving that IP. It's about performance. It's about art. And so assuming that cosplayer is confident in her looks, don't. It's better to assume that every woman feels unattractive because somebody in her life has told her that she is. The most beautiful woman in the world has been told everything that's wrong with the way she looks from someone, usually a man, possibly her own mother. And that's important to remember. We do need, and there's really ambivalent discussions with women about you have to let men be men and you have to soothe their ego. But then there's that resentment, right? Of, oh, I have 3 kids, 2 kids and my husband, ha, 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 ha. And that's not nice, but it's a cope. It's how that woman really feels, but there's no discussion about, okay, lady, how are you contributing to that? Are you letting him be a grown-ass man? Often not. Often, you don't know how to do that. Let me do it. Instead of letting him try, letting him learn, right? And I hear that from a lot of guys. There's no safe way to learn. There's no safe way to learn to be a woman either. You just get horrifically bullied and rejected from men and women alike. Twist yourself into pretzels to become, somebody you're not. Most women do not emotionally and psychically survive high school. They're walking shells of destroyed innards. That's just true. And it's like, well, I don't want to deal with that. Cool. Work on your own stuff. Be good with you. Want women's... I dropped the approval thing, personally. I don't... There are very few people, maybe 4 people on the entire planet, I will accept messages of disapproval from. If someone says, I don't approve of what you're doing, it's like, I never asked for your approval in the first place. You are not my superior. You don't get to approve of what I do. You can like it, you can don't like it, but I do not give you that power over me. There are some people whose approval is important to me. I'm not going to say who, but, but that I disconnected from it. You don't have to if you feel like it's positively motivating. I'm like, I want people to understand. If someone likes what I do, great. But I am not doing this for anybody's approval. I make these videos so if somebody is looking for someone to talk to, they have a basic idea of who I am and what I believe. And so we can save a lot of time. People know what they're going to get with me if they sign up, right? And yeah, I'm trying to show that I do have some understanding. I am sympathetic. I do know that guys do not get enough validating messages. Men get far fewer compliments than women do. And there's this idea that men don't need them. They're supposed to be self-actualized, but that's bullshit. It's bullshit. Guys, I hear what's wrong with helping someone. What's wrong with wanting to be someone's hero? What's wrong with that? Nothing other than you're putting your sense of self in another person's hands. And, real heroes, the sort of paladin role, they do what's right because it's right, not for approval, because often the right thing is the most unpopular thing you can possibly do, at least in the short term. And then when it turns out you're right, people resent the fact that you were right. They feel too guilty about the way they treated you, and they will never admit that you were right. Welcome to my life. But it's okay to want people to notice what you do and think well of it. And I do think that one of the things that this whole women as reward tropes versus women thing did was demonize something that actually is what women want men to want. They want women's opinions of what they do to matter. And we can't do anything about the damage that tropes versus women did to that. All we can do is rebuild. We can start kind of undoing, start healing. And it starts with guys, groups of guys being gentler with each other, being more authentic, being more validating in the conversations with each other. So that becomes normal. And then when a woman is cruel, when you deal with her, it's like, well, that's about her, not me. Because, I come from a supportive place. And if she's not coming from a supportive place, I'm not looking to fix anybody. I'm not looking to save anyone. I want a partner. And I want to help where I can. I want to be useful. That's a whole other topic. Like men and usefulness. It's a real thing. And I'm like that. I like being useful. Because it's something I can actually succeed at 30% of the time, right? But, you know, you can't model something that you don't believe is real. And if men don't believe supportive environments are real, if harsh words and harsh action are the only thing they've ever experienced, of course they're going to be performatively misogynist. Because they've been attacked for being a man and they don't realize that the people who do that are kind of full of shit. They're envious. They think men have power and privilege and patriarchy and all that shit. All P words, PPP. And I think that if men are in more supportive environments, that, yeah, it's nice when a woman notices. It's nice when a woman thinks I was a good guy. Wanting it, not needing it, right? Because then there's no such thing as an involuntary anything. You make choices. You live with your choices. You have more agency and influence over what happens in your life. It's way healthier, but you're never going to get acceptance through messages of rejection. All that tells the world is that you've given up. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Or buy a one-time Leanna Care session for someone who can use it but can't afford it. People struggling with these issues. Sign up for yourself if you want somebody to talk to that gets it to an extent. Coffee.com/LeannaK. Thanks for watching Manly Mondays.